For centuries, humanity looked at the night sky and believed it was a peaceful void, calm, distant, and harmless. Stars twinkled like tiny lanterns, planets drifted silently, and space seemed too enormous for anyone else to care about the small blue world called Earth. But the day the stars went quiet, humanity learned just how wrong they were. It began with a faint hum, like the low vibration of a distant engine. Astronomers around the world paused, staring at their screens as telescopes picked up a strange distortion rippling across the solar system. At first, they assumed it was sensor failure. Then the distortion grew, and grew, until it became unmistakable. Something massive was arriving. And not just one thing, many. Within minutes, governments were awakened. Military channels locked down. Emergency protocols lit up across Earth as shimmering shapes emerged from behind the sun, reflecting golden light like curved blades forged from liquid metal. Alien ships. Hundreds of them. They positioned themselves around the solar system with impossible precision, the way a hunter might circle a frightened animal. People on Earth felt something they hadn't felt in decades: helplessness and fear. For the first time in history, humanity was not looking outward. Something powerful was looking back. Inside the United Earth Council chamber, dozens of leaders argued at once. Panic filled the room like smoke. Are they hostile? Have they communicated? Why are they surrounding us? Someone slammed the table. We need a representative, someone calm. There was only one name everyone could agree on: Ambassador Cale Ryden. Cale was not a military man. He was not a scientist. He was a diplomat, calm, thoughtful, and strangely unshakable. Even in the most heated negotiations, he never raised his voice. He listened. He observed. He understood. But what made him truly unusual was a habit that baffled everyone. He always carried a newspaper. Everywhere. In the age of quantum holograms and instant feeds, Cale still preferred the crisp fold of printed pages. Some called it old-fashioned. Others called it charming. But Cale liked the simplicity of it. And that simplicity was about to shake the galaxy. Within hours, humanity received a message, a formal summons to a diplomatic summit aboard the flagship of the Aurelian Empire, the mysterious invaders now circling the solar system. There was no request, only a command. So Cale went. He boarded an envoy vessel with a small team, including a young analyst named Mira Solon, who admired him for reasons she could never fully explain. Maybe it was because nothing ever seemed to rattle him. Or maybe it was because the galaxy itself could be collapsing, and Cale would still be reading page 3 of the morning news. The envoy ship glided toward the largest alien vessel, a colossal crescent of molten silver, glowing with shifting patterns like living circuitry. As Cale stepped inside, he felt a strange gravity in the air. The ship hummed with alien power, its walls breathing faint waves of light. Yet Cale looked unimpressed. He simply tucked his newspaper under his arm and kept walking. The Galactic Assembly Chamber was unlike anything humanity had imagined. It was shaped like a vast dome of stars, each one drifting across the ceiling like liquid constellations. Floating platforms carried alien delegates of every shape and form: crystalline giants, translucent beings in fluid tanks, feathered creatures perched on hovering thrones. But the Aurelians dominated the room. Standing at the center was Verlaxus the Radiant, the supreme strategist of the Empire. His body shone like polished gold, his armor etched with ancient runes that pulsed with sunlight. 4 eyes glowed white-hot, and his voice echoed with mechanical resonance. The moment Cale stepped forward, conversations halted. Delegates leaned in. Some pitied him. Others admired his courage. But many simply waited, eager to witness humanity's first, and possibly last, galactic appearance. Verlaxus raised his staff and the stars dimmed. "Humanity of Sol," he declared, "your unauthorized expansion into restricted space violates the sovereign accord. You have developed technologies that threaten the balance of the galaxy. Your species advances too quickly, too dangerously." A faint murmur spread across the chamber. Verlaxus' voice grew darker, heavier. "Therefore, by decree of the Aurelian Empire." His staff slammed into the ground with a thunderous pulse. "We declare war upon your world." The chamber exploded into noise. Fear. Curiosity. Amusement. Everyone waited for the human to react. Any other representative would have trembled, panicked, begged for negotiation. But Cale Ryden simply opened his newspaper, as calmly as if he were sitting in a cafe back on Earth. A rustle of paper echoed through the hall. He adjusted his glasses. He began reading. Aurelians stared in disbelief. Verlaxus froze, momentarily speechless. "Human, you misunderstand. This is not a diplomatic disagreement. This is war. Kale did not look up. I heard you, he said mildly. Just checking the weather report. Seems like rain back home. Several alien delegates blinked, uncertain if this was impressive or suicidal. Kale turned the page again. You were saying something about war? His tone was light, almost bored. And that terrified them. Because only a species with absolute confidence behaved like that. Mira Solon stood tense behind him, trying not to look horrified. Ambassador, please, maybe respond properly? Kale lowered the newspaper just enough to glimpse the Aurelian leader. And he smiled. It wasn't an insulting smile. Nor a foolish one. It was the smile of someone who knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't. Vorlaxis, right? Kale said gently. Before we discuss war, I suggest you check the operational status of your ships. Confusion flickered across the strategist's glowing eyes. My ships? Yes, Kale said. The ones you so boldly parked around our solar system. Murmur spread again. Kale tapped a small device on his wrist, a simple human-made transmitter. A soft ping echoed through the chamber. Because the moment they entered human space, Kale continued, every one of your ships began experiencing, let's call them technical difficulties. Vorlaxis stepped forward. What have you done? Kale shrugged. Nothing too serious. Just a demonstration. A friendly one. The look on the Aurelian's face said he did not consider any of this friendly. Kale folded his newspaper neatly. For now, he said softly, let's just say declaring war might not go the way you expect. And for the first time since the Empire arrived, the galaxy began to fear the humans. The stars had gone quiet. But humanity had not. A strange silence swallowed the Galactic Assembly chamber. Where moments before there had been noise, panic, whispers, curiosity, now there was only stillness, like the vacuum of space itself had pressed its cold hand against every throat. Ambassador Kale Ryden stood calmly at the center of that silence, newspaper in hand, reading the sports section as if the strongest empire in the galaxy had not just declared war on his entire species. To the Aurelians this was nothing short of insanity. To the other delegates, it was something far more dangerous. Confidence. Not the arrogance of conquerors, nor the carelessness of fools, but a quiet, unshaken certainty that made everyone uneasy. Vorlaxis, the radiant, supreme strategist of the Aurelian Empire, watched Kale with a mixture of confusion and offense. His four glowing eyes narrowed as Kale flipped another page of the newspaper. You are reading? Vorlaxis asked, struggling to keep his voice level. While facing extermination? Kale looked up with mild curiosity. Oh, sorry. Did you want my attention for something? A soft ripple of shock traveled through the chamber. Even the crystalline nobles, who never showed emotion, flickered slightly in surprise. Vorlaxis gripped his staff so tightly it hummed with unstable light. Human, he thundered, we have just informed you that your species faces annihilation. Your worlds will fall. Your people will kneel. And you? Kale's eyebrows lifted politely. MHM. I heard all that. Loud and clear. He folded the newspaper carefully as if giving the Aurelian leader a small courtesy. Look, Vorlaxis, Kale said with a calm smile, I appreciate the dramatic speech. Really. Very well delivered. But you might want to review the status of your fleet before we take this conversation any further. That smile, the casual, almost friendly smile, was what shook the galaxy. Because predators didn't smile like that. Victims didn't smile at all. Only something dangerous smiled at the brink of war. From behind Kale, Mira Solon whispered desperately, Ambassador, we are surrounded by hostile warships. This isn't the time to provoke them. Kale winked at her. It's exactly the time to do it. Myra's stomach twisted. She admired Kale deeply, but she couldn't tell if he was a genius, or a lunatic wearing a nice suit. Vorlaxis slammed his staff against the ground. Golden light cracked across the floor like lightning. You will explain, he demanded, what you mean by status of our fleet. Immediately. Kale tapped the small wrist device again. A soft pulse echoed through the chamber, like the chime of an ancient bell. Holographic projections shimmered to life above his hand. They showed Aurelian ships, majestic crescent vessels, flickering, glitching, losing power. Their engines sputtering. Their shields collapsing. One by one. The chamber erupted in gasps and panicked cries. Even Empire loyalists fumbled to re-establish connections with their command networks. Impossible, shouted a crystalline delegate. How can a pre-FTL species do this? Shrieked a feathered envoy. Is this sorcery? Whispered a gas form elder. Kale lifted his newspaper again. No sorcery. Just engineering. A low murmur rolled across the room. Engineering. The humankind. Verlaxus stepped closer, his radiant form trembling with restrained fury. What? Done. Kale shrugged lightly. Oh, not me. Humanity. I'm just the guy who gets to tell you about it. He flicked to another page of the newspaper. You see, the moment your ships crossed into our solar system, our defense network engaged a special protocol. A non-lethal, non-aggressive one, mind you. Verlaxus hissed. Explain. We shut your ships off, Kale said casually, as if announcing a power outage at a small office. You what? Shut them off, Kale repeated cheerfully. Power, weapons, shields, everything. Right now, your fleet is basically a bunch of shiny statues floating around Saturn. The room exploded into arguments. Delegates scrambled on their platforms, shouting into their comlinks. Kale waited patiently. He even whistled. After a minute, he raised a hand. Everyone calm? No one responded. He nodded. Good enough. The Aurelian strategist took a long breath, the golden glow of his armor dimming slightly. This is not possible, he said, voice lower, trembling with threatened pride. Your species is young, undisciplined, chaotic. You do not possess the sophistication to neutralize an Aurelian armada. Kale gave a half-shrug. That was true a century ago. Then we started learning. Fast. He stepped closer so Verlaxus saw his face clearly. We don't grow slowly, Verlaxus. Humans leap. The statement hung in the air like a blade. Kale continued, we reverse-engineered dark energy architecture in 50 years. We unlocked quantum command fields in 20. And we dismantled your encryption within. What was it, Mira? Mira swallowed. 23 minutes, sir. A hush fell over the chamber. Even Verlaxus' radiant armor flickered. Kale tilted his head sympathetically. 23 minutes. To break the most secure code in the known galaxy. Honestly, you guys should update your security protocols. Verlaxus glared. Kale raised his hands in surrender. Friendly advice. One of the older delegates, a floating creature of translucent blue mist, drifted forward. Human, it whispered, are you saying your species can disable any ship that enters your region? Kale turned a page of his newspaper. Not can. Did. The room erupted again. This upends the balance. They must be contained. They must be destroyed before they surpass us. Kale shut the newspaper with a crisp snap. Exactly why we need to have a calm conversation, he said firmly. Humanity isn't expanding to conquer anything. We're just moving fast. Faster than you expected. He smiled again, softer this time. And faster than some empires are comfortable with. Verlaxus' eyes flared. You imply fear. You imply war, Kale countered. I'm just pointing out how unnecessary all of this is. The Aurelian leader stood frozen. For millennia, no species had challenged his empire. None had even dared speak back. But here stood a single human with a flimsy piece of printed paper, dismantling the illusion of Aurelian dominance. It is dangerous, Verlaxus said slowly, for a species to grow without oversight. Kale nodded. It is equally dangerous for an empire to assume it gets to provide that oversight. The two stared at each other. A silent clash of wills. Ancient power versus rapid evolution. Empire versus humanity. Then Kale tucked his newspaper under his arm. I'm not here to threaten you, he said gently. I'm here to inform you. Inform us of what? Verlaxus asked. That if you push for war, Kale said, the Empire won't just lose. He stepped closer. You'll lose before you even realize the battle started. The chamber went still. Verlaxus said nothing. Because deep inside his ancient mind, he knew the human wasn't bluffing. Mira exhaled shakily. Kale smiled again, that same smile that made entire empires uneasy. A smile that didn't boast, didn't threaten, didn't mock. A smile of a species that had finally stepped onto the galactic stage. And found no reason to bow. The chamber lights dimmed as Kale Ryden's holographic projections floated above his wrist device. Aurelian warships flickering like dying lanterns, their power cores sputtering into silence. Every alien delegate stared at the images in disbelief. Every one of them had assumed the Aurelians were untouchable, ancient, invincible, untouching the stars with power unmatched for ages. But today, they watched the Empire stumble. And they watched a human, just one man, explain it with the calmness of someone discussing a mild weather report. Kale clicked the hologram off and tucked his newspaper under his arm. Well, he said, Now that we're all on the same page, can we talk like civilized species? Not a single voice responded. Some delegates floated backward, fearful. Others leaned in, fascinated. A few whispered among themselves in panicked tones, unable to decide whether humanity was a terrifying threat or a force they desperately needed to ally with. Verlaxus the Radiant stood stiffly, the light of his armor pulsing unevenly. For the first time in centuries, cracks appeared in his composure. "You claim," Verlaxus said slowly, "that your species neutralized our entire fleet without firing a single weapon." Kale bowed slightly. "Neutralized, yes. Damaged? No. We aren't reckless." The statement rippled across the room. The Aurelians expected hostility. The other empires expected defiance. But they did not expect restraint. Humans, not attacking when they had the advantage? That alone changed many assumptions. Verlaxus pointed his radiant staff at Kale. "Explain how your people achieved this. Quantum lockdown at this scale is forbidden. It is illegal under every interstellar system of law." Kale raised a finger. "Correction. Illegal for empires that signed your accords. Humanity didn't sign anything. No one invited us to the meeting, remember?" A few alien delegates chuckled despite themselves. Even Mira Solon, trembling behind Kale, had to smother a smile. Kale continued, "Besides, what we built isn't a weapon. It's a defense system. One that listens for very specific energy signatures." He gestured casually at the holograms floating behind him. "Energy signatures like yours." Verlaxus' armor flared angrily. "You cannot expect the galaxy to believe you designed such a system purely in self-defense." "But it's the truth," Kale replied brightly. "Humans design everything for self-defense first. Our species is small compared to the galaxy. Vulnerable. That makes us creative." Mira nodded silently. She had helped build parts of that very system. The solar shield array, an enormous lattice of quantum sensors and microinterference drones hidden around the solar system. It didn't attack anything. It didn't damage anything. It simply turned things off. Like flipping a breaker. Verlaxus studied Kale cautiously. His 4 eyes seemed to search for deception, but Kale met them all with the steady patience of a man who had walked into countless negotiations more heated than this one. Finally, the Aurelian leader asked, "Why reveal your hand? Why show your capabilities openly?" Kale considered the question. He placed the newspaper under his arm. And he stepped forward. "Because you declared war," he said calmly. "And if humanity didn't show its strength, you might have followed through." A low hiss escaped Verlaxus' armor, not anger, but realization. This wasn't bravado. This wasn't threat. It was strategy. Kale turned to the rest of the chamber. "Humanity isn't seeking conflict," he said, voice steady but firm. "We're explorers. Inventors. We're curious. We move fast because we learn fast." He paced slowly, meeting the eyes of hundreds of alien delegates. "Yes, we've developed technologies that surprise you. Yes, we've progressed faster in the last century than most species do in 1,000. But we aren't trying to dominate the galaxy." He stopped at the center of the chamber again. "We're just trying not to die in it." That line struck harder than any threat. The smallest species in the room suddenly understood. They had never feared humanity. They had feared how empires would react to humanity. Humans weren't the danger. The Aurelian Empire was. Verlaxus regained a bristle of authority. "You expect us to believe your intentions are peaceful?" Kale raised a brow. "Well, you're the ones who showed up uninvited with warships. We were literally eating breakfast when you arrived." A few nervous laughs echoed across the chamber platforms. Kale shrugged. "Look, if humans wanted war, you'd know. We don't hide ambition. We turn it into conferences and documentaries and loud political debates no one wants to watch." Mira elbowed him. "Ambassador." "What?" "It's true." Even Verlaxus' armor flickered with something dangerously close to amusement, but it faded quickly. "You boast," the Aurelian said. "But your species has only just begun its ascent. You stand at the beginning of a path that leads to empire or destruction. Or something in between," Kale said. "We aren't like you. We don't want thrones. We want opportunities." He lifted the newspaper. On its front was a headline. "Humanity completes first quantum FTL drive." Every alien delegate leaned in. Some gasped. Others whispered in awe. Verlaxus froze. "That is impossible." Kale tapped the headline lightly. "Prototype completed. Not tested yet. But the math checks out." "You have achieved true faster-than-light travel?" a crystalline noble asked in a trembling voice. Kale smiled gently. "Let's say we're very close." A wave of fear, admiration, and disbelief rippled around the room. Kale let the moment settle before speaking again. We didn't develop these things to dominate. We developed them because we refused to stay small. Not because anyone threatened us, but because it is in our nature to push boundaries. His voice softened, becoming almost reflective. Humans wake up every morning with the same instinct. Try again. Try harder. Try something new. That's all we're doing on the galactic stage. And yet, Verlaxis said slowly, we deemed your progress dangerous. Kale looked directly at him. Not with hostility. Not with defiance. But with understanding. Of course you did. That's what empires do. They fear anything they can't control. The assembly murmured. Verlaxis stiffened. Kale stepped closer. You don't fear humanity because we're powerful, he said. You fear us because you can't predict us. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Kale smiled pleasantly, flipping his newspaper back open. So, he said, now that we're being honest, shall we talk about peace? The Empire's radiant strategist stared at him. A human with a newspaper. A species with impossible technology. A smile that hid no malice, yet unsettled entire civilizations. Humanity had finally revealed its hidden hand. Not as conquerors. Not as victims. But as a force the galaxy could no longer ignore. And as Kale stood there, serene, steady, unreadable, the Galactic Empires faced a truth they had never expected. Humanity was not rising to challenge them. Humanity was rising whether they liked it or not. The war drums of the Orlan Empire thundered across the galaxy, echoing through every relay beacon and diplomatic channel. Entire civilizations listened with dread, knowing that when the Orlans declared war, planets burned. But on Earth, inside the heart of the Terran Union Embassy, one man remained impossibly calm. Ambassador Kalis Ward sat at the center of the War Coordination Hall, a cup of jasmine tea steaming gently beside him. The holographic table projected images of enemy fleet formations, colossal ships forged from living crystal, bristling with weapons older than Earth's written language. Officers and analysts crowded the room, overwhelmed by the scale of the threat. Yet Kalis still held that same old paper newspaper in his hand. No tablet. No holosheet. Just ink on paper, as though the universe weren't about to explode. General Rhea Solvine, commander of the Defense Council, stormed toward him. Her voice cracked like a plasma bolt. They've mobilized the 7th Armada. Do you understand what that means? Kalis breathed in the scent of jasmine and turned a page. It means, he replied, their emperor is afraid. Gasps rippled around the room. A junior officer dropped his datapad. Afraid? The Orlan Emperor? Impossible. The Empire had crushed dozens of star nations without losing a single capital world. General Solvine leaned over him, whispering fiercely. Our forward colonies are being pushed back. The Alarian Pact has already surrendered. How can you be so calm? Kalis folded his newspaper carefully. Because they still don't understand humanity, he said. They think war terrifies us. They don't realize it unites us. A silence fell over the entire war hall. Even the humming of the reactors seemed to pause. The Emperor's mistake. Far across the void, within the crystalline throne chamber of Orlan Prime, Emperor Valethorian studied the war analytics. His advisors trembled before him, terrified to deliver even the smallest fragment of bad news. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed at one particular rebellion in his data. Humanity's morale graph refused to fall. In fact, it was rising. Valethorian hissed. Impossible. His war chief bowed low. My Emperor, it seems humans respond to existential threats with... He swallowed hard. Increased determination. The Emperor slammed a clawed fist into his throne, cracking the crystal. Find out why their ambassador laughed at my declaration of war. No species mocks the Orlan Empire without consequence. But the Empire's mistake had already been made. They declared war thinking humanity was soft, fragile, unprepared. They didn't realize that humans had evolved not in safety, but in catastrophe after catastrophe. Orlans feared chaos. Humans were born in it. A message from the shadows. Back on Earth, Kalis received a coded transmission. No sender. No header. Only a phrase. Protocol Dawnflare is authorized. The veiled horizon awakens. General Solvine's eyes widened when she saw it. You're activating them? Those programs were sealed for a reason. Kalis stood. For the first time he placed his newspaper aside. We've been playing defense, he said. Now we shift to offense. A chill crawled down the spines of everyone in the room. Protocol Dawnflare wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a fleet. It was a message, an emergency signal sent only when humanity was hopelessly outmatched. It summoned what the galaxy whispered about in rumors. The Horizon Core. Humanity's myth. Humanity's shadow. Humanity's last resort. No one really knew where they operated. Some said they lived in folds of space where time stuttered. Some believed they were ghosts of early explorers enhanced beyond recognition. Others claimed they didn't exist at all. But they did. And they answered. The first move. 3 days later, a trembling Orlan scout vessel sent a frantic transmission before vanishing. An unknown Terran fleet has appeared from nowhere. No warp signature, no drive trail. By the stars, what are? The signal cut. But the damage was done. The message reached Emperor Vale Thorian. He stared at the flickering hologram with rising unease. What Terran fleet? He whispered. His advisors scrambled, pulling up star maps. Nothing matched. No known human warship had the design described in the report. No known engine could appear without a warp trail. No known fleet moved with such surgical precision. But the worst part? Every Orlan ship that encountered the unknown humans reported the same insignia. A sunrise breaking through a black horizon. The Emperor snarled. So, humanity has been hiding its fangs. But this was not humanity's fong. It was humanity's warning. Ambassador Kayla's second laugh. The Galactic Peace Council convened an emergency summit. Dozens of alien ambassadors attended, their faces tight with fear. Holograms filled the chamber, worlds near the Orlan frontier burning, fleets retreating, refugee ships scattering like sparks in darkness. Kalis arrived late. Not stressed. Not rushed. He walked in sipping his tea, carrying a fresh newspaper tucked under his arm. Ambassador Litharus of the Jareen nearly hissed at him. Your people are at war with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Where is your panic? Kalis calmly smoothed the newspaper and sat. If the Orlan Empire thinks declaring war scares us, he said, taking a slow sip, they've never read human history. He opened his newspaper. And then, just as he had done the day the war began, he laughed. The sound was soft. Not mocking. Not cruel. Just confident. The entire Galactic Council froze. Ambassador Litharus whispered, voice trembling. What does humanity know that we don't? Kalis turned a page. Everything, he said. A universe begins to hope. News spread faster than warp light. Humans were fighting back. More than that, they were winning skirmishes no one else had ever survived. As reports trickled through of mysterious Terran ships appearing like phantoms, other civilizations began reconsidering their fear. Some even dared to hope. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy whispered. Maybe the Orlan Empire can be stopped. And humanity, fragile, underestimated humanity, stood at the center of that hope. But Earth knew the war had only begun. The Orlan Empire would not tolerate humiliation. Their retaliation would be devastating. Yet Kalis Ward, humanity's calmest diplomat in history, simply returned to his seat in the war hall and resumed reading. General Solvine stared at him in disbelief. What now? Kalis smiled. Now, he said softly, we show the galaxy what humans do when we're pushed to the edge. Outside the window, the first ships of the Horizon Core glided into Earth's orbit. Silent, dark, and filled with impossible potential. Humanity was done laughing. It was time to fight. The skies above Earth shimmered with strange new silhouettes, warships no one had ever seen before. Sleek, obsidian hulls glowed faintly with lines of liquid silver. Engines burned without light, without sound, bending space in ways even the Terran Union had no words for. The Horizon Core had arrived. In the War Coordination Hall, every officer stood silently as 3 of the ships took position above Earth, orbiting like silent guardians. Their presence felt heavy, almost ancient. Humanity had created them, but barely understood them. They were products of black-budget research, lost experimental programs, and physics theories that most scientists considered impossible. Ambassador Kalis Ward stood before the giant display window, watching the ships glide by like shadows cast by stars. General Rhea Solvine approached him, keeping her voice low. So the rumors were true, she whispered. They actually exist. Kalis nodded. And their return means one thing. The Orlans finally forced our hand. Behind them, analysts whispered nervously. The Horizon Dawn. The Obsidian Reach. The Eclipse's Mercy. These were not just ships, they were warnings carved into metal. Orlan Prime in panic. News of the mysterious Terran fleet reached the throne room of Emperor Vale Thorian. His advisors stammered through incomplete reports. These vessels do not match any registered Terran design. No warp tunnel signatures. Appear and vanish without detectable gravitic wake. The Emperor tightened his claws around his crystalline scepter. Are they a new human experiment? The war chief bowed so low his forehead nearly touched the floor. We do not believe these ships are new, my Emperor. Valethorian's eyes narrowed. Explain. The war chief swallowed. Some of our oldest records, fragments from before our empire was unified, speak of anomalies. Fleets that exist outside normal spacetime. Weapons that appear where no ships were detected. We always believed these were myths. But his voice trailed off. The Emperor hissed softly. Humanity awakens forgotten monsters, and they dare call us the threat. But even as he spoke, fear twisted in his chest. Because myths survive for a reason. And these ships were not myths. The meeting in the dark. In a sealed chamber beneath the Terran embassy, far from diplomats, far from civilians, Kalis met with three figures, each wearing a matte black cloak. The first was tall and silent, the hood hiding every feature. The second moved with the precision of a machine. The third simply stood like a shadow that refused to behave like normal light. General Solvine stiffened. These are the Horizon commanders? Kalis nodded. The tall figure stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was calm, controlled, and deeply human. Ambassador. We answer your call. Kalis bowed slightly. I would not summon you unless we had no other choice. The second figure tilted its head. The Orlan Empire seeks total submission. That makes negotiation irrelevant. Kalis sighed. I know. But the galaxy still sees us as ordinary. Predictable. Too young to win. The third figure spoke for the first time, its tone quiet, almost gentle. Then we will teach them what humans become when survival is the only option. General Solvine looked between them nervously. Do you intend to attack the Orlans head-on? The second commander shook their head. No. The first strike will not be a battle. The room shivered with tension. It will be a demonstration. First contact with the impossible. 2 days later, in a remote star system claimed by the Orlans, 3 Orlan destroyers drifted on patrol. Their commander, Admiral Karenis, was bored. No species dared approach Orlan space. The war with humans was still young. The Empire expected their easy victory to come swiftly. And then it happened. The stars flickered. Space blurred. And 3 unknown vessels appeared right in front of the patrol, nearly touching distance, without any warp flare or gravitational distortion. Karenis froze. Identify those ships. His crew scrambled. We can't, they don't appear on scans. Our sensors aren't registering them at all. Admiral, they are not reflecting light correctly. Before panic could complete itself, a human voice echoed through every Orlan system simultaneously. A demonstration of capability. The voice was calm, cold, almost polite. And then, all 3 Orlan destroyers lost power. Not damaged, not hacked. Simply switched off like toys. Their engines dimmed. Their shields collapsed. Their lights died. Every system, every weapon, every circuit, gone. The Horizon ships turned silently. And vanished. Instantly. Just as they had appeared. The message that broke an empire. Hours later, Ambassador Kalis stood before the Galactic Peace Council again. Dozens of alien ambassadors trembled as they watched the leaked Orlan patrol footage. 3 destroyers drifting helplessly, crews panicking, powerless as children's toys before a storm. The room was deathly quiet. Ambassador Litharus of the Jareen looked pale. Those ships are human? Kalis simply nodded. The council exploded into whispers. One ambassador gasped. Humanity has that kind of power? Another whispered in awe. Why didn't they use it before? Kalis raised one hand. Silence returned instantly. Humanity does not seek dominance. We do not seek war. But we will not be conquered. He placed his newspaper on the table gently. The Orlan Empire declared war thinking humanity was weak. He leaned forward. We are not weak. The council seemed to lean back instinctively. We are patient. Orlan rage. Emperor Valethorian watched the same footage. His throne chamber shook under the force of his roar. This is a declaration of total war. He rose, eyes burning like twin stars. Dispatch the Imperial War God fleet. Every dreadnought. Every titan. Every weapon we have forbidden for centuries. His war chief hesitated. My emperor, that would mean? Valethorian slammed a fist into the crystal floor, fracturing it. Humanity thinks they can humiliate us? he hissed, voice trembling with fury. Then let them witness the full wrath of an empire that has never known defeat. Humanity prepares. On Earth, Kalis closed his newspaper. General Solvine swallowed. Sir, their retaliation will be catastrophic. Kalis simply nodded. Good. General Solvine blinked. Good. Kalis stared out at the horizon ships orbiting Earth. Because now, he said softly, they have committed everything. He turned. And humanity has not yet shown them what we truly are. Outside, space rippled as more horizon vessels arrived. Hundreds of them, emerging from folds in reality. The galaxy shuddered. War was coming. And this time, humanity was ready. The Orlan Empire had never mobilized its entire military, not in tens of thousands of years, not even during its earliest wars of conquest. But the footage of their disabled patrol ships, the ones effortlessly neutralized by humanity's unknown fleet, shattered their arrogance like glass. And so, in a frenzy of wounded pride and rising panic, Emperor Valethorian summoned the Imperial War God Armada. These were ships so ancient that some were older than Orlan written history itself. Titan-class dreadnoughts that had crushed stellar civilizations. Planet breakers capable of carving continents from orbit. Machine enslavers, gravity twisters, weapons banned by every galactic treaty. The Emperor stood at the center of his war chamber as the tactical displays lit up with thousands of red icons. Mobilize the entire armada, he commanded. We will erase humanity so completely that the galaxy forgets their name. Advisors bowed deeply, but their eyes were clouded with fear. Because even the mighty war god Armada had never faced an enemy like this. Humanity's quiet before the storm. Back on Earth, the night sky shimmered with unnatural movements. Stars dimmed for brief moments, as though immense shadows passed between their light and the planet below. Ambassador Kalis Ward stood on a balcony high above the Terran embassy. Wind tugged gently at his coat as he watched horizon vessels appear one by one. Each arrival was silent, like a whispered promise that the end of the war was near. General Rhea Solvine joined him, her face pale in the dim light. We've confirmed it, she said quietly. The Orlan Emperor has deployed the War God Armada. All of it. Kalis didn't look surprised. Then it begins. Solvine hesitated. Our defenses are strong, but... Kalis, these ships were myths for a reason. Are you sure even the Horizon Corps can hold them back? Kalis smiled faintly and folded his newspaper under one arm. You misunderstand, General. He turned to look at her. The Horizon Corps is not our shield. They are our answer. The first clash. Far from any inhabited world, in a silent star system known only to deep space navigators as Sector Null, humanity made its stand. The Horizon Corps had chosen the battlefield. A perfect place for legends to clash. When the Orlan War God Armada arrived, its scale dwarfed imagination itself. The combined mass of their ships could have altered local gravity. The glow of their engines lit entire moons. The hum of their power cores reverberated across the void like the growl of gods. Admiral Karenis, overseeing the formation, whispered in awe. Humanity will crumble before such power. Then space rippled. Light bent. And the Horizon Corps appeared. Not thousands. Not even hundreds. Just 19 ships. 19 silent, black, horizon-marked vessels facing an enemy fleet so vast it filled every star of the system with crimson reflections. Orlan commanders laughed. 19 ships? They mock us. But their laughter died quickly. Because the Horizon Corps didn't move. Didn't arm weapons. Didn't broadcast warnings. They simply waited. As if 19 ships were enough. As if the War God Armada was insignificant. The weapon without fire. The Orlan flagship, the Eternal Sunder, opened the battle with a blast from its planet-breaker cannon. A spear of crimson light capable of splitting a world in two. It struck the Horizon ship known as Eclipse's Mercy. The beam hit. Space ruptured. Light scattered like shattered glass. And when the glow faded, the ship remained. Untouched. Orlan crews froze. The Emperor himself watched the live stream, confusion replacing fury. Impossible. Another dreadnought fired. Another. Beams that could hollow a moon. Waves that twisted gravity. Weapons banned by sane civilizations. Yet none of them worked. Each blast simply dissolved. As if reality refused to let the Horizon ships be harmed. Then the Horizon Corps finally acted. Not with missiles. Not with lasers. Not with plasma. They simply spoke. A single transmission flooded every Orlan ship simultaneously. You have attacked humanity. You have threatened our home. This is your final lesson. Then, silence. and the Orlan fleet's power vanished. Just like the patrol ships days earlier, the War God Armada went dark. Weapons offline. Engines frozen. Warp drives dead. The greatest armada in their history drifted helplessly in space, powerless as children's toys. 19 Horizon ships began to move. Slow. Calm. Purposeful. The Orlan forces realized, too late, that humanity wasn't fighting with superiority. They were fighting with inevitability. The Emperor who lost his voice. On Orlan Prime, Emperor Valethorian watched in horror as his invincible armada, his empire's pride, became a graveyard of drifting metal. Advisors panicked. My Emperor. They are disabling entire fleets with no known weapon. Sensors cannot interpret their technology. Maybe it isn't technology. We must order a retreat. Valethorian slammed his fist into the console. We do not retreat. But then a new voice filled his throne room. A voice that didn't come from speakers. Didn't come from communications. It came from everywhere. Kalis Ward. Speaking calmly. As though chatting over tea. Emperor Valethorian. You declared war without understanding your opponent. The Emperor froze. What are you? How are you transmitting here? Kalis' tone remained polite. Humanity is done hiding its strengths. You threatened our worlds. Our families. Our future. Then Kalis' voice hardened, quiet but unbreakable. So now you face the truth, humans do not fear war. The Emperor's breath faltered. What do humans fear? Kalis answered. Extinction. So we evolved to prevent it. The last word echoed through the throne room like a verdict. Then the voice faded. The Emperor realized his hands were shaking. For the first time in his reign, he understood fear. Humanity's final warning. Back on Earth, Kalis lowered a secure communicator, exhaling softly. General Solvine approached, wide-eyed. Sir. The Emperor looked terrified. What did you say to him? Kalis folded his newspaper. The truth. He walked to the display window, watching the Horizon Corps surround the disabled War God Armada like silent sentinels. This war ends soon, he said quietly. But not because of our weapons. General Solvine frowned. Then because of what? Kalis smiled faintly. Because the Orlan Empire finally understands what humanity becomes when cornered. He turned as alarms echoed faintly from distant outposts. The final phase of the war had begun. And the galaxy would never forget what was coming. The galaxy held its breath. News of the Orlan War God Armada's collapse spread faster than warp-speed communication. Entire star nations watched the live feeds in silent disbelief as the invincible fleet, an armada that once conquered whole sectors, drifted powerless in Sector Null. But the Horizon Corps did not destroy them. They simply held position, surrounding the helpless giants like calm guardians. And for the first time in recorded history, the Orlan Empire had no idea what to do. The Emperor's last gamble. In the shattered throne chamber of Orlan Prime, Emperor Valethorian paced like a cornered beast. His shimmering robes were torn, his golden eyes burning with a mixture of rage and terror. Advisors hovered nearby, terrified to speak. They disabled our fleets like children's toys, one whispered. They didn't fire a single weapon, said another. Valethorian slammed his claws into the arm of his throne. Then we strike where it hurts. If their fleets are too strong, we will shatter their morale. Prepare the Starfire Eclipse. Every advisor froze. The Starfire Eclipse was not a ship. It was the Empire's most forbidden weapon, an extinction-class device designed to ignite the atmosphere of an entire planet. A weapon meant for one purpose: erasing Earth. The Emperor's voice cracked with desperation. If humans will not kneel, we will burn their home from the stars. The warning. On Earth, deep beneath the Terran embassy, an alarm pierced the silence. A hologram burst to life, a spike of exotic radiation detected near the edge of the Sol system. General Rhea Solvine sprinted into the room. Ambassador Kalis, Orlan Prime has deployed an extinction device. They're targeting Earth. Gasps spread through the command center. Kalis did not gasp. He did not flinch. He merely folded his newspaper. I was waiting for this, he said gently. General Solvine stared at him. Waiting? Kalis, this thing can wipe out the entire biosphere. Kalis nodded. I know. Which is why the Horizon Corps anticipated it. He turned to the communications officer. Signal the Horizon flagship. Authorization, Final Horizon Directive. The officer's eyes widened. Sir, that protocol has never been used. It has now. The light in the void. Near the edge of the Sol system, the sky cracked like shattered glass. A wormhole tore open with a shriek that no ear could hear. From it emerged the Starfire Eclipse, a weapon so large it dwarfed small moons, pulsing with fiery crimson energy. It aimed directly at Earth. But it never fired. Because as the weapon aligned its core, space bent. A shadow expanded behind it, growing, stretching, forming the silhouette of a colossal vessel. The Horizon Prime. The flagship of the Horizon Corps. Larger than any Orlan dreadnought. Darker than deep space. Silent as a whisper. The Starfire Eclipse tried to power up. The Horizon Prime answered. A single pulse of invisible energy washed over the extinction device. And every component inside it collapsed into dust. No explosion. No radiation. No shockwave. The weapon simply ceased to exist. Across the galaxy, civilizations erupted in disbelief. The Orlan Empire had unleashed their forbidden weapon. Humanity erased it in a heartbeat. The message that ended a war. A direct transmission forced itself into the Orlan Emperor's throne room, bypassing every defense, every firewall, every barrier. It wasn't from a warship. It was from Kalis Ward. Come. Unbroken. Holding his newspaper. Emperor Valethorian. The Emperor spun, breath shaking. You destroyed the eclipse. Kalis' voice remained steady. No. We prevented genocide. He stepped closer to the camera, eyes steady and firm. This war ends now. The Emperor snarled, though fear cracked every word. Why haven't you destroyed us already? What are you waiting for? Kalis answered without hesitation. For you to choose. Surrender, or extinction. The throne room fell silent. Every Orlan official stared at their trembling emperor. Valethorian sank into his throne. A king, finally realizing his empire had reached its final hour. The empire falls silent. Moments later, a single Orlan symbol appeared in every Terran comm channel. A white flag surrounded by golden crescent rings. The Orlan symbol for surrender. The galaxy froze. For the first time in 60,000 years. The Orlan Empire submitted. Earth erupted in celebration. Across human colonies, people cheered, cried, hugged strangers, lifted children into the air. Not because the enemy was defeated, but because humanity had survived. Humanity had proven itself. Humanity had risen. The ambassador's final walk. Several days later, the Galactic Peace Council reconvened for a historic session. Every ambassador from every major species attended, not out of formality, but because they had witnessed the impossible. The doors opened. Ambassador Kalis Ward entered. Every alien in the chamber rose to their feet. Some bowed. Some placed hands over hearts. Some simply watched in awe. Kalis reached the center podium and opened his newspaper. A Jarine ambassador whispered. He still carries that, even after all this. Kalis spoke softly, but his voice filled the chamber. Let this be remembered. Humanity did not start this war. He turned a page. Humanity did not seek victory. Another page. Humanity sought survival. Then he folded the newspaper and smiled. And we will always protect those who stand with us. The council erupted in applause. Not for war. Not for dominance. For hope. Because humanity had shown the galaxy something no empire ever had. Power without cruelty. Strength without conquest. Victory without destruction. A new dawn. On Earth, the Horizon Corps ships slowly vanished into folds of space, returning to wherever legends are born. General Solvine stood beside Kalis on the balcony, watching the last ship fade. Will they return if we need them? She asked. Kalis smiled gently. Whenever humanity is threatened. They always have. She looked at him thoughtfully. You knew this outcome from the start, didn't you? Kalis shook his head. I didn't know. He lifted his newspaper. I believed. The sun rose over Earth, reflecting off distant ships and quiet oceans. A new age had begun. An age where humanity stood not among the stars, but above them.